of them went across the country and changed state election law without the concurrence of the state legislature. They went to local courts, they went to commissions, they weaseled decisions out of governors or consent decrees. Many, many ways they changed state law to get rid of ID laws, to get rid of signature requirements, and most importantly, to get rid of that election night deadline. So that was unconstitutional. In fact, the High Court, the Supreme Court has said that in the past. Only state legislatures, Sean, it's in Article 1 and again in Article 2, only state legislatures can change the time, the place, and the method of electing electors for the presidency. Only state legislatures. So in Pennsylvania, it was done by a Democratic-led Supreme Court against the will of the state legislature. So now they've got ballots coming in after election night, ballots without signatures, right, and ballots without appropriate ID. And even today, the election commissioner in Philly, Lisa Deeley, was asked, well, are you at least segregating these ballots that come in late the way the Supreme Court told you you have to? And she declined to say how many of the ballots were even in that category. So, frankly, that's a very bad sign. Deeley and the Philadelphia mayor...
Are you suggesting, though, that the state legislature now, having their constitutional authority usurped by these people, are you saying that they have a duty now to get this right?
They've already gone to court. They asked the Supreme Court ahead of time. The Supreme Court declined. Amy Coney Barrett said she wanted to wait till after the election. Roberts, it's understandable. Often the justices don't want to get involved in these election issues. They're hoping that it will be a blowout for one side or the other, and these questionable ballots won't count. But it turns out that it's a nail biter. And in fact, this Pennsylvania case is already in the Supreme Court. And by the way, the same is true in North Carolina. And there are commonalities between these two states and other states. So I'm telling you that the President of the United States has a strong legal case.
Miranda Devine, you've been doing some of your best work leading into this election and before. I got to tell you, you're doing terrific. Look at how social media, big tech, literally censored articles from the fourth largest newspaper in America, your newspaper.
Thanks, Sean. I know it's incredible, and they're still doing it. I mean, they're censoring the president when he raises these legitimate questions about, whether or not this has been a legitimate and fair election. And I think, Betsy's done a great job of laying out some of the issues, and that'll go through the courts. But to have the Democrats and their pet media talk about respecting the outcome of elections when they've just spent the last 4 years saying that Donald Trump was illegitimate. We had Hillary Clinton just a few days ago complaining again that she had the election stolen from her. And now you've got TV anchors cutting off the president when he's talking about these quite legitimate concerns that there is fraud that's happened around the country, and saying that he's not telling the truth and that they're baseless. I mean, he has a strong case. And there's a lot of questions. Why was, for instance, counting stopped in 5 states? Why were observers not allowed inside to see the counting? If there's nothing to hide, why are they hiding? And the problem is, maybe there is nothing, maybe there was only a little bit of fraud, maybe it's not enough to turn the election, but this is a very close election. And
but Miranda, here's the question I have. If the law requires and allows partisan observers to watch the vote count, and they weren't allowed to watch the vote count, how do we ever know what really went on? The answer is we don't. We never will we?
Well, we'll need recounts, and that's happening in Georgia.
Recounts, but was there any ballot tampering? Do we know if there was any ballot dumping? I mean, what do we know?
Let me explain one of the things that will happen. In the Pennsylvania case, and the Pennsylvania Democrats were very clever about changing the rules contrary to the state legislature so that ballots could come in after Election Day with no signature and no postmark. Now tell me, Sean, how useful do you think it would be to be able to count a lot of ballots that come in after the date with no postmark and no signature if you're short of ballots?
I think it would be pretty easy, especially if that was partly a part of a plan or design. I mean, unfortunately, we can't put our head in the sand and not understand that there are people that don't have integrity and don't break laws. I just went through the list of public officials, including a judge, an election judge in Pennsylvania, taking money and bribes to stuff ballot boxes. That happened this year.
Well, the Philadelphia mayor said today in a press conference he thought President Trump should, quote, put on his big boy pants and concede the election. So how can we have any confidence that the Philadelphia mayor and his election staff are counting ballots honestly if they're demanding the president concede before the ballots are counted?
Yeah. Miranda, your thoughts?
Well, I think that we just need to take a deep breath and slow this down. If Joe Biden tonight with Kamala Harris at their 8 p.m. press conference comes out and tries to claim victory, that will be very damaging to the country, but also to Democrats. They need to understand that they are not going to be able to have a comfortable presidency if he wins unless they convince 70 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump that their vote hasn't been stolen. And so I think both sides need to be very careful. They need to ensure that the public is comfortable that this is legitimate. And you're not going to get that when you have the Philadelphia mayor, as Betsy just said, coming out and saying that. You have the Pennsylvania Attorney General. The Democrats in power in some of these states are behaving appallingly, and it's not going to help them. I don't know if they have noticed that the Democrats were actually delivered a shellacking in this election. They have gone backwards in the House. They have not won a single extra Senate seat. They are setting themselves up for the midterms in 2022 to be a bloodbath for them. They are not going to be able to get their pet project through the Senate. So really, what are they getting? It's a Pyrrhic victory if they end up infuriating half the country.
I think you're both right. I will come back more with Miranda Devine and Betsy McCoy. Now, at the bottom of this half hour, a Michigan GOP chair breaking news about how 6,000 votes were caught that were for Trump, that were registered for Biden, and the software was used elsewhere in Michigan. Wait till you hear this story next. You can't believe it. Hey, listen, we all...
Boom, I saw that break on Twitter. A friend of mine sent that to me today. And it was either Twitter or Facebook, I'm not sure, but a fellow brother sent that along the message train system. So, very interesting about that story. The 6,000 ballots that were somehow electrically flipped. I don't know how that's possible. As far as I know, everywhere in Michigan is paper ballots. That's what I used with an ink pen, not a Sharpie. But we've used Sharpies in the past. Well, it wasn't a Sharpie. It was a Papermate felt tip pen. That's what I've always used. This time was weird to me because I actually used a regular pen, and that was the first time for that. But definitely not a Sharpie. But it was a, normally those Papermates, they're like, they used to have those ridges down the side. I love them. I use them all the time for writing. That's my preferred pen. Is a little, not a fine tip felt pen, but like a medium tip, smaller felt pen from Papermate. Use them all the time. I can write very clearly. I write in all caps. Even my lowercase letters are capitalized. They're just smaller, by 50%. And that's like a drafting or engineering thing that I do. Anyways, that's off topic. So 6,000 votes got switched from Trump to Biden, and that system apparently was used in other places too. I don't know the extent of that, but that is breaking and coming out as of today. I've seen a lot of stuff on them switching. or not allowing people at Cobo Hall, which is probably the biggest voting district in the whole state. Cobo Hall is downtown Detroit. A ballot or an observer, election observer. I'm taking a little break here because I can't have the windows down when I'm talking or the AC on. So that's 6,000 votes in one place. Add that or times that by X number of places, and that's quite a few votes. Okay, that's just one thing in Michigan. I'm from Michigan, so I'm telling you that everybody I know, like, I'm not everybody that I know, I'm going to say a strong 90% of the people I know voted Trump. But I don't live in Detroit. You know, I don't live in Ann Arbor. I don't live in Grand Rapids. So, I live near Jackson, and Jackson had a lot of Trump signs in Jackson, which I was actually pretty surprised of. Anyway, that's the one thing I wanted to say. And the other thing I wanted to say was I posted this on Facebook that I was really upset that Amy Coney Barrett did not take up the Supreme Court decision. She was brand new, and it would have been like her first case or whatnot, from what I understand. And it was a 4-4 tie, which then I thought went back down to the lower court in Pennsylvania. It was Pennsylvania and North Carolina. She did not vote on. Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch had a tweet about it about a week ago, 5 days ago maybe, explaining that his tweet was to the effect of, you know, the GOP moved heaven and earth to get Coney Barrett confirmed on the Supreme Court, and then she turned around and makes a no decision because of lack of time. Now, what that gal was saying right there, which is just what she's saying, I can't confirm that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judicial scholar by any stretch of the means. See, I was upset that she didn't rule on it, but what that gal was saying was they put it off. Not that it went back to the lower court like I thought or assumed, but that they put it off until after the election, because if it was a blowout, then there would be no point of voting on it then. But if it was close, then they could bring it back up. That makes total sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. So that's great news. I was very upset with ACB about that. I was like, you get crammed in there onto the Supreme Court, and the first thing you do is pass on a major critical thing in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. And then the night of the election, I was really upset with it because I was like, look there's North Carolina and Pennsylvania still, quote unquote, in play. Although I don't think, definitely not Pennsylvania. I think that is just shenanigan city. I don't know anything about North Carolina. I know that Pennsylvania, though, is definitely that's subject to a recount or, ballot observations for sure. That's been known. So, again, on my channel, I try to bring you news. I don't try to, my goal here is, yes, I'm a Trump supporter, okay? And I'll tell you that outright. But I don't want to bring you news that is, I'm not going to tell you that it's for sure true, or, I'm going to give you the status of it. So I think that all sounds very legit. But when I do my car videos, it's kind of a mix of, it's like my car videos. It's mix. I like to play a little Hannity because it gives me, or Rush, or just the normal news breaks and stuff on the talk radio, gives me a little something to go by and gets me pushed in a direction where I can talk to you guys. And also, I hear things that I haven't heard before, just like then. So, what I want to do, though, is on my news videos, I'm just going to read the news. I have a plan to just read several stories and don't give any commentary on them. I'm just going to, read boom, 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 boom. And then after they're all done, I'll go back and read commentary. I'll give you my opinion of them. / why I picked them. It's something I'm working on, and it's going to be through my website. So I will be scrolling through my website in real time, just as you see it, and the stuff that interests me, I will click it, and then stuff that, you know, if it interests me, I'm going to click it and read the article and not give you any opinion on it until the end. Then I will revisit all the links that I have talked about and give you my opinion. So even if you are a hardcore leftist Democrat, you know, you can hear the news that I'm reading without my bias in it. You know, I'll have the bias of picking those stories, but they will come from a place that will be sourced so that everybody can read them and make up their own mind. And if you want to hear my opinion, then you can at the end. That's what I want to do, because I want to be fair. I want to be fair, honest, and balanced, like not like Fox News say they are, but like I'm going to give you just me reading the news, and you can make up your own mind. And if you want commentary, then you can wait till the end of the news portion of the broadcast, and I'll give you my 2 cents. But that allows everybody, and I'll source link in the description. That's the other thing that's important. And then, you know, and it probably retweet it too. I'll probably tweet the stories too that I cover. Anyways, I'm going into a longer term plan. Right now, just covering those are two big things: 6,000 ballots flipped from Trump to Biden. That's the second time I've heard that, so that reconfirms. And then the ACB story where she skipped out on the vote because there wasn't enough time. Now looks like they can revisit it. That I assumed, and I didn't make a video on this, I don't think, that I got kicked back to the lower court because she didn't make that judgment. I didn't know that they could put a stay on that, or they could table it till after the election, which definitely makes sense, and that definitely is smarter than not ruling on it before, you know, and kicking it down to the courts. If they did that, I'd been real upset. But all right, so that's my video for right now. I may or may not get into it tonight. We'll see how I'm feeling, and when I get home, because I'm dealing with back issues. And I've had a long day. I had hard PT today. So I love y'all. God bless you. And God bless America. Peace, man. I said, man, peace out, man.